grant from the Anthony F. Conti Fund.
You can come here and actually meet the owner, the person who's making the bread, who's cutting the meat.
Recognizing people and making sure that I say hello to them or welcome them to the market, you know.
For some reason, I don't think there's no market.
That's the terminal term. That's the use. It's more or less associated with the soap opera. Because basically it's almost like early November. It really is. And it transferred between the Reading Company and the Pennsylvania Convention Center Authority.
Yes, that is going to have an influence on the market.
There was really no choice. The market is very old. It's deteriorating.
I wouldn't want to see it become a food hall.
Dollars are a very powerful influence.
My name is Dave Esch. I'm from Lancaster County. The address is actually Gordonville. It's about a mile east of the famous town of Intercourse. I'm sure you heard of that in Lancaster County. Some people ask us whether we come all this far in a horse and buggy. They ask us if, what time we leave in the morning and if we go back and forth every day. I don't know. Some people actually think we come back and forth in a horse and buggy, or if they just ask that of them.
Well, the market is like my home because I'm probably here more than I'm in my house. I either preparing food or just sitting around serving my customers or just sitting around talking to my customers.
I sat down, I was complaining about how much the beer cost. I bought 2 beers, 2 hot dogs, that was $13. I'm like, this is criminal. They make you $10 a person on top of the $30 a ticket. It's a really folksy and natural place to be, that you're going to come here and find real people. It's a good atmosphere, it's a good conversation. You get a lot of the best food of the city. This terminal seems to represent a lot of what's best about Philadelphia.
You know what you're buying?
Hi.
How are you? What kind? Okay, this is Chinese eggplant.
Okay.
The Japanese one is shorter. Shorter and thin like this.
I like this one better.
Right, this long Chinese eggplant. I think this is more tender and better. I remember the market as a very busy place as a child, walking around here and holding my grandfather's hand at counter plate. But I had just worked in Yugoslavia, and after I finished there, I went to a lot of markets in Europe and in Istanbul and Jerusalem and Cairo. So I had this sense of what the feeling of a market and all these different things happening and smells and colors and people and crowds and commerce taking place. So it was an amorphous kind of a vision, but it was, you know, a true sense of what a good old market was like.
Depending on how far you want to go back, the market goes back to the 1600s, when there are written records which suggested that there was a market down on Dock Street, down by the water. And when the ships, or when the farmers would come in with produce, there'd be a bell down at the docks, and they'd ring the bell, and that would be a sign that there was a public market there. Over time, that market was put in basically very temporary structures, much like the Italian market functions today.
I have customers, especially on Saturday, or, no, I can't even say Saturday, during the week. I have customers, if they come here more than twice, and they don't see me, when they eventually see me, they're like, where have you been? Well, how come you weren't here? They want to see you. So it's like we're like a family.
And how do you like it? Want it rare?
Medium rare, medium rare.
Okay. I'll take it 35 minutes.
Okay.
no more. Take it out, and you let it stand for 10 minutes. Okay, before you cook.
Now the oven's preheated to 400. Do I bring it down?
Keep it at 400.
Keep it at 400, okay.
35 minutes. Take it out, and let it stand for 10 minutes.
Got it.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
Then call me when it's ready.
Okay.
It's a very warm and personal thing that most of my customers have with me or share with me. I know their children, I know their grandchildren, I know their hurts, their wants, you know. Somebody had one time said, "Well, you make a great bartender." Well, you know, it's pretty nearly the same thing, only we're in the meat business.
On the site before this market, there were, on the corner of Market Street, two old market houses, the New Franklin Market and the 12th Street Market. And the Reading Company wanted this land, but market people, being a feisty brand, as we still see today, didn't budge too easily. And Reading Company made a compromise with them in order to get their property that incorporated the Reading Terminal Market in the plans for the new transportation complex. It was then the world's largest indoor food market. There was a cold storage area in the market basement that was the first of its kind in the world. Foods were brought in on the trains from all over the place. The market had a tremendous competitive advantage, and this was really unlike anything people had seen before. And people flocked in here. There were 1,600 stalls, marble counters, and merchandise from all over the world.
I used to work for Roy Roger, and the only thing I knew was cook was American food: roast beef, hamburger, and fried chicken. But when I came here, I don't know nothing about Chinese food. Totally different thing, totally different feel. And I learned everything from scratch. How to slice, dice, and debone the chicken and cut the beef. Everything's by hand, nothing by machine at all. Everything's done by hand, so it's more difficult cooking Chinese food than it's American food. It's easier to cut your fingers too.
So if you come, I'll get you to dance.
I'll dance. What are the fundraising efforts for? I mean, exactly what are they?
Essentially, we had a really big fight to make sure that the city and the Convention Center Authority preserved the market.
I thought that was solid, man. Was that not the case?
It is, but nonetheless, we still had a huge battle. So we owe the attorneys a lot of money.
My husband and myself, David and I, love farmers markets, always have, and when we travel, we'll always go and search out a farmers market.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sure. David and I were talking about just doing this part-time, and he came in one day and he was making flan, and I was running in and out in my business suit, you know, interviewing and ready to go out in corporate America, and the pan broke and the caramelized sugar burned his hand. So I'm like taking my suit off in the ladies' room, putting jeans and a t-shirt on, and I came behind the counter, and that's where I've been for the past 10 years.
The Bravermans is a bakery over there. They had one of these portable telephones. And someone went down there, somebody went behind the counter and stole it. So Victor, the fellow that, Victor Braverman, thought he saw the guy. So he went and got Bill Tony, the guard. Said, Bill, that guy just stole my telephone, and he's sitting over there. So Bill and Rocco went over, and they said, would you mind standing up? This man believes you stole his telephone. The guy said, I don't know what you're talking about. He said, I didn't steal anybody's telephone. Just then it rung. It was in his jacket.
Somebody called us. It started ringing. We cornered him, and it started ringing.
So Bill said, I think it's...
People would call their orders in, and we would make the orders up, pack them in dry ice, put them in boxes, and as a kid, I would take them to the baggage rooms of both the Reading Railroad and the Pennsylvania Railroad, and they would go out on the trains, and they would be dropped off at wherever they lived, Gladwin, Paoli, wherever, and then the chauffeurs would pick up the packages and take them to the homes. Or if they needed something right away, they would call up and they would send the chauffeur in, and my father would have the orders ready for them, and they would pick it up. And that's how the business was done in those days. Credit, always gave credit. You always trusted everybody. man's word was his bond, and it was a good way to do business.
Yeah, it's funny because sometimes when lawyer comes down, right, I think this came out from the courtroom or from the client, right? Come here, let's say, they don't have their money with them or their wallet with them, and they don't mind to get a credit and they come back to pay for it tomorrow. They sure, no problem, because they're a regular customer.
The stand that you're seeing here is the original one that was here in 1893 when the market was first built. And these marble counters are the same marble counters that they used then. Years ago, in fact, one man would dish the ice cream into a dish with a large spoon, hand it to another man who would slide it down the counter, and amazingly it would stop right in front of the customer that it was intended for. Well, that is until my father employed a new slider downer, and he proceeded to slide the ice cream down the counter, and it did in fact stop in front of the proper customer, but it landed in her lap. So I think that was the end of that particular era.
It rains, it pours, you know, and that rain sits and settles for quite a while before it's physically out of the building. You know, it may stop raining outside, but there's rain that's sitting and settling.
Just all of a sudden, out of the clear blue sky, tons of water, not tons, but a good 50 buckets full would come down and catch somebody while they were eating, which was pretty funny. So I'm not going to say we didn't laugh. We laughed. In the summertime, from all the refrigeration in the basement, was so cold that the floor out there would get so cold and damp and it radiated the coolest. It could be 100 degrees outside. Never got over 63 degrees in here. I can remember when I was a kid, in the middle of summer, people would come from Wanamaker's or something. They'd come in here just to cool off, eat Bassett's ice cream and cool off. Now that's amazing, yeah? We were pretty busy over here, and this girl that works down at the coffee place, I think it was Marie, came up and asked me for a fire extinguisher, and that her store was on fire. So I immediately grabbed Walt, the guy that works with me, and we ran down there. No water came out whatsoever. The plumbers working on the convention center had shut the water off. Some people that were eating at my stand here had also gone down there to help out. The Koreans, people from Terminese, and the surrounding stands from the flower shop all came together. We finally got the fire out just as the fire company arrived. When the Second World War came along, I was young then, and the market really boomed. Everybody came here because they couldn't buy food, couldn't buy meats or anything anywhere else, and they did an excellent business. But when people lined up for half a pound of butter, that was a long line. Sometimes it went out the door. When people wanted meats, it was another long line, and they had rationing stamps and all that. And I can remember on Sundays, my mother, my sister, and I, our job was to count all the ration stamps on Sunday so that he could send it to the meat houses to get more meat to sell. And that was a time-consuming job, yes.
It would have been really fun to have come in here as a child, and I have so many customers who come in here and they reminisce, oh, we've come in here forever. The kids that just left have been here since they're 2 years old, and they have a ritual. They have to come. They have to have their nachos. So it's cute. I wonder at some point what they'll remember when they're older about their childhood and eating tacos and nachos in the market.
I think one of the more unusual flavors that we had involved Nikita Khrushchev when he came to the United States for his appearance at the UN. An aide was sent down to Philadelphia to ask Bassett's if they could make borscht-flavored ice cream and have it sent ahead to Washington. My father thought about it, and he decided, yes, he thought that could be done. So he did, and shortly thereafter, it was on its way to Blair House.
The market flourished, I would say, until about the end of the 50s, the late 50s, and somewhere in there. And that was because that's when the supermarkets started to open up. Suburbia started to build up. Everybody left the city. Everybody wanted to go to a supermarket. They thought they were getting a better deal or whatever they thought.
How do you pick a life?
As long as they're not soft like bush nuts, not too soft, nice and firm, yellow.
Like this?
Yeah, this is a less white.
Yeah. This is good. Could you use today?
You can cut it today, yeah.
Good. It's special. It's special. And I had a look around, and I like this shop most because it was very nice service. Not a market like this we don't have. You can see it in Italy or Spain, but not in Switzerland.
Let me see if I can get you a little bit of dry ice and put it in.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a nice trip home.
Thank you.
Have a good holiday.
But the products that you can find in the market, you can't find in a supermarket. The other day I went to the supermarket and counted 16 different kinds of frozen French fries, and they had 3 kinds of fresh apples. Now you tell me, is life a little out of balance or what?